G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you are all doing well out there. We're back. It's been a little bit of a chaotic week. Lots of chop. Lots happening with the price. I feel like there's something bubbling underneath. It's going to attack us soon, whether it's up or down. I don't know. The market makers are certainly loading their shorts. So I won't be surprised if we get a squeeze. I may come off the back of some ETF news. But it seems like everyone's just waiting around for the news, and I get it. It makes complete sense. So we've just got to be patient with this one. It makes life a little bit tricky, but here we are. Here's the weekly chart for Bitcoin with the Gaussian channel put on there. Now, the Gaussian channel doesn't predict bottoms or tops, but it does sort of indicate momentum. And if you look back over time, historically, when we go through the midline here, we then retest it, and then we go and move up to the first dead cat bounce is the terminology, which is about 48K. Now, I don't know if we're going to get to 48K. That's pretty generous pre-halving, but we will get there eventually. And you can see it's been like this midline has acted absolutely beautifully as resistance. As support. So look, I'm not a big chart guy, but I like how this looks. It's got lots of nice colors on it. And all I see is some greenies, and they're going up, and that's what we want to see. So hopefully we can continue on our march. Yeah, I'm hanging on. Rational Root does this beautiful graph. You've seen it before. This is our Haring Progress. We are the red line in the middle. We're bang on here. This is aggregated against the short-term hodler cost basis. But we're right on track. Everything looks in alignment with previous cycles. This was obviously the COVID black swan. And I feel like the market, because of recency bias, the market is trying to prepare for a black swan. They want to buy the dip. Now, there's too many people prepared for a black swan event, in my opinion. We're never going to get one, ever. It's a black swan. It's a 1 in 100 year event, you've got to assume. Will we get a big recession? And will we get a liquidity crisis? Potentially, but that might happen in 2024. How will Bitcoin react? I have no clue. It might be the flight to quality that Larry keeps rattling on about. But who knows? Who knows? Julian Timmer from Fidelity, if you're looking or if you're a little bit bored, you can go into his Twitter and look through some of his graphs of late. They are fantastically bullish, and he's sort of calling for 600K at the top of the cycle now. I mean, these are eye-watering numbers that are hard to wrap your head around. So I don't think we should even think about that. We need to first we got to get to 42. Then we got to get to 48. Then we've got to get to the halving. Let's just see how everything plays out. We want to be in the game. We want to be cognizant of what's happening around us. That's all we can do. But what happens in the media and the public sphere and the economic bros and the academics and the finance gurus, they all say the Bitcoin is no good, and you never buy because you listen to morons who think they're geniuses, who may have had some success in the past. And quite frankly, in a declining rate environment, basically everyone had success in the past. Fuck. You had to be a moron not to make money in a declining rate environment. Be that as it may, these people still have a little bit of a look at me attitude. Now, I'm not talking about Ross Sorkin here, Andrew Ross Sorkin. He's a funny fellow. Let's not get into him now. But he is a part of this sort of problem, I think, with the information that you're getting. Sam Bankman-Fried obviously has been convicted, 115 years. The guy's fraudulent as fuck. He's corrupt. He's a liar. He's a scumbag. $8 billion he stole from his customers. So hence the jail. Fair enough. He's a fat slob. And if anyone couldn't tell he was a corrupt loser from the start, I mean, these altruistic fucks, they can still look after themselves. He's not even altruistic. He's just a liar. He told everyone what they wanted to hear. It's the same with the green scam and the COVID scam. It's all the same. People are just telling you what you want to hear, and you can't do the work to gather the truth. Now listen to the applause here of the public consciousness in this deal book summit the New York Times put on. I mean, these people are fucking morons. But this guy had already been, FTX had already collapsed at this stage this was put on. Listen to the applause. They're roused for this guy. They think he's a genius. All he did was scam you.
On behalf of everybody here and on behalf of the public, I want to thank you for engaging in it at a time in truth when I know you've been advised not to. So thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Sam Bankman-Fried, everybody.
And here's the ECB. Another one. That's a pretty big outfit, the ECB. Let me tell you. This is their tweet on the 22nd of November. The apparent stabilization of Bitcoin's value is likely to be an artificially induced last gasp before the crypto asset embarks on the road to irrelevance. Wrong! No, false. They're on the road to irrelevance. They're shitting themselves. Everyone's afraid of Bitcoin. Everyone is afraid of Bitcoin. If you're involved in the corrupt system that we currently operate in, you're afraid because you can no longer get away with the lies that you once have. Ooh, and here's Charlie throwing some fuel on the Bitcoin fire. He's 100 next week. So we really shouldn't listen to old Charlie, but let's do it anyway. Bitcoin is like throwing a stink ball into a recipe that's been around for a long time. That's worked very well for a lot of people. And it has, Charlie, it has worked well for you, this system, which you can manipulate and you can leverage and you can blackmail sovereign nations and businesses into getting your way. It has been very beneficial to a very few people, and you're one of those. But Bitcoin isn't about that. It's about giving the power to the people. And it's the only fair way. You will earn beautifully if you are a productive member of society. So Charlie, he knows exactly what Bitcoin is, hence his words here. He's chosen them wisely, and you need to read through the lines wisely here. He knows that the existing system is just a puzzle that has been placed together for people like him to play the game, to dominate the game. It's not a system that's fair. Let's be honest. David Ramsey, I'm going to play this little clip for you. He has been poo-pooing Bitcoin for years. People call into this guy for advice. I mean, this is the sort of state of the world that we're in here. It's hard to get good advice. And I think that's the moral of my message here. Just do the work and read and trust your instinct. As a man, you're likely a man watching this. Data shows that you're likely a male who's watching this. Be a man and make your own path and decisions. Read, do the work. Bitcoin will look after you if you do the work. You have conviction and you will survive the long run. Not like Dave Ramsey. He's been telling people to avoid it like the plague. Like Charlie Munger, like the ECB. These people are scared. We're at that phase in the cycle where people are scared.
And what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a currency on the internet. It has no value except to the extent someone else will take it from you as value. Just like that paper has no value except the extent someone else will take it. So Bitcoin is the Iraqi dinar of the internet. And I know intelligent people who, while they're intelligent, are not wise, that have put a bunch of money in Bitcoin. But it's a really good way to turn $1 million into nothing, to play in unstable currencies that they're, and here's what you have. Let me tell you what Bitcoin is. It's WWW. It's the wild, wild west. You're back to the Western banking system. Because all of a sudden, one of these computer nerds just flips a switch. The whole freaking thing's gone. It has no value. They just got completely ripped off, and it took them down. And so the little hipster techie guys are sitting in front of the building with a sign that says, "Where's my money?" Well, honey, you never had any. It's not real money because it's not a stable currency that has any kind of a system that backs it, that has any kind of a system that protects. Well, I've made a lot of money in Bitcoin. You can make a lot of money trading dirt to somebody else trading dirt until people catch on that dirt's not a good idea to trade. You can trade gravel out of your driveway as long as you can get away with it. And so just because you made some money doing it doesn't mean that it was a bright idea. And so I'll go ahead and, I got all you Iraqi dinar people and all you gold people all pissed off at me. So let's just go ahead and add you Bitcoin people to the mix. You're stupid. You're going to lose your money. Be pissed at me. You shouldn't have put money in something wacko like.
And one of the most scared of all is the CEO of Vanguard. Tim Buckley, he says the firm won't join the Bitcoin ETF race as Vanguard claims to be focused on asset classes with an intrinsic value and capable to generate cash flows like equities and bonds. He's already lost. And I wonder what price he's going to create this Bitcoin ETF at. Maybe 100K? Maybe 150? I don't know. Hey, Timmy, you're making an error here. Look at him. He looks like a schmuck. And when you have data like this that Fidelity produces, and Julian Timmer, I urge you to look at his Twitter, his profile. He's got a plethora of great charts. He shows you all the data. The data's all there. Denying that Bitcoin is the winner or going to be a winner is stupid. I mean, I don't understand how people can buy what they're either listening to or being told by these idiots on television. If you haven't got Bitcoin by now, I mean, what can I say? You live under a rock, or you have too much trust in the existing infrastructure. You're too dependent on the system itself. You can't make your own choices. You need to become independent. You need to be responsible for your own actions, and you need to learn about Bitcoin. But as with all of the FUD and all of the lies and all of the stuff that's coming at you 24/7, this is the only chart that really matters. This is showing that 75% of the total stock of Bitcoin is in hands of hodlers, people who know, people who have debunked all of the academics, Bitcoiners these are, people who have debunked all the financial elite. They've debunked the banks. They've debunked the governments. They've debunked all the lies. The only people that debunk anything are Bitcoiners, quite frankly. I mean, they're the only group of people who look into everything deeply and demand the truth. It's only the Bitcoiners, no one else. It's unbelievable. And the only incentive they have is because we operate under a premise that if you fix the money, many, many things in this world will get a lot better. And it'll get rid of the corruption that is plaguing our society. So the price is going to have to go right up to move this. See this? This is 75%. The price is going to have to go very, very high for people who are hodling for 6 months to part with their Bitcoin and give it to BlackRock. It's going to have to be very high. And I think that potentially is what's going to happen. But someone knows something because the hash rate is going bonkers. It's gone up 10%, I think, today. And that's unheard of. So we're going to get difficulty adjustment after difficulty adjustment. And the blocks are going to be coming through quite quickly. So perhaps halving moves forward a couple of weeks. I don't know. Well, time will tell. But the expenditure into mining is quite frankly eye-watering. And I get it. Energy companies, states, sovereign nations, anyone who has excess energy can now monetize their excess energy, and they can stabilize their grid and, get a better on-demand ability with their power. It's a beautiful thing. So you can't really slag Bitcoin mining anymore. It's just too good. I'm going to leave you today with Bill Miller Jr. This has been a short one, I know, but I just wanted to get across this. I'm sick of reading this shit from these people. But Bill is very bullish. He's very positive. Him and his old man have been very early investors in Bitcoin, and they've gained a lot. In fact, they're great investors in a lot of things very early. But the problem partly is, particularly with Larry Fink, he says crypto, not Bitcoin. And Bill gets this message across really well. All the media need to drop the term crypto. It's Bitcoin, not crypto. It's Bitcoin. And so people need to understand the differentiation between what they're investing in. And although it doesn't pay as well to promote just Bitcoin, because you don't really get anything out of that, you can manipulate crypto shitcoins, no problems. So stay the course, stay on the path of ethical investment, which is Bitcoin. You will sleep well at night knowing that you've made a clean and clear decision. You will not get rug pulled. But anyway, stay well, stay safe. I'll see you next week. Here's Bill. Listen to Bill. It's 5 minutes. Listen to the whole thing. Good luck out there. I'll speak to you soon.
Well, I think it's really important that we differentiate between Bitcoin and crypto. So crypto was convicted yesterday on 7 counts of fraud. Lying to people about what you're doing with their money is wrong. The beauty of Bitcoin is that's not an issue. There is a very clear digital ledger maintained by computers and a very clear protocol out there that's visible for everyone to see. Bitcoin is very different from crypto. So crypto was convicted yesterday. Bitcoin is still going very, very strong. The network's as strong as it's ever been. You know, there's more users than there's ever been. So we continue to see very positive trends in Bitcoin, not so much in crypto.
What is the most positive trend? And do you believe that it's largely, especially with some of the price action that we've seen recently, that seems to have been driven not so much by what's taking place in trials, but more so by some of the ETFs that could be set for approval?
Yeah, I think the big picture trend is that Bitcoin is the best performing asset in 9 of the past 12 years. It goes up, it's been up 3 out of 4 years. People tend to focus on the very short-term fluctuations and the volatility. But the reality is there's a real demand globally for an uncensorable asset where the regulators can't change the rules and the measuring stick over time. So I think another thing that's driven Bitcoin's appreciation recently is the massive debts we're racking up in the US. Deficits are going up, debts are going up, and someone's gonna have to pay for that ultimately, and it's gonna come from money printing.
So what's the next lever for Bitcoin, you think? I mean, are we really gonna get back to the highs that we saw in 2021?
I think next year, the halving, if you look at historical patterns to the extent they hold again next year, the halving means a reduction in the marginal supply of Bitcoin. If the demand does not change and the marginal supply effectively gets cut in half next April, there's only one clearing mechanism for that, it's higher price. So, you know, there's all kinds of positive trends. The fact that fiat currencies have an almost perfect track record of failing over long periods of time. So Bitcoin's much harder for people in the US to understand, given that we have a clear rule of law and very clear processes to expand the money supply. But the reality is the money will be printed. Bitcoin's supply is very clearly laid out, and that's a huge benefit for Bitcoin holders.
Bitcoin's found some of its biggest success in crypto as a whole, some of its biggest success when FOMO is high, when there is lack of FOMO or lack of risk that people are willing to take on in their portfolios. You know, what should we make of how crypto is set to perform at that point in time? And then even further forward, if they say, okay, this is just too risky of an asset, regardless of what types of other assets are layered on top of one particular vehicle?
I think it's important to define risk. A lot of people equate risk and volatility. The reality is you can't have an asset that's gone up by as much as Bitcoin has over the past decade without volatility. And that goes both ways. And so that's hard for a lot of people to tolerate. But the reality is people that have tolerated it have done very, very well. And so I think that's an important thing to think about. And the way you frame it is interesting, because is it really Bitcoin that's volatile, or is it people's perception of this new technology relative to fiat currencies that are volatile? Fiat currencies are the real thing that's volatile. There's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be created. And so yes, there's a lot of FOMO and trading in and out, and people should be looking at the bigger trend, which is the things move much, much higher. Best performing asset over the past decade by a gajillion %. But people focus on the short-term fluctuations in the here and now because they have short time horizons. But people that have longer time horizons, again, I think will continue to do very well in Bitcoin.
Well, I guess I mentioned risk in that the biggest risk coming to this point had been whether or not there would be actual wide-scale critical mass adoption utilization, whether there would be governments that would take a more crackdown type of measure versus an acceptance measure. And in some parts of the world we have seen that, but here in the US it seems like we're taking steps towards there being a way forward for holding cryptocurrency assets, but then it still comes back to the, okay, does there need to be utilization? And, you know, I kind of put that to you. Does that kind of quell some of the concerns around risk?
Ultimately, I think utilization for Bitcoin will occur, maybe on another layer on the Lightning Network. But the reality is, if you think about the fundamental aspects of currency, right? Well, you actually want you want the rules to be clearly set. The problem with all of these other currencies is the rules change every single year. And that's why inflation occurs and people's purchasing power goes down unless they do something productive with those assets. The great news about Bitcoin is that its value is derived solely from the amount of people that understand the technology and believe in it and buy into it. And so, you know, we've seen a trend of that going up over time, over many years. The Fed has actually studied how much they think you could regulate Bitcoin, and what the conclusion they arrived at was it's very hard to regulate because it's simply a protocol on your phone. Now, of course, you have these centralized on-ramps like Coinbase and others, but the reality is if people wanted to push the button, it'd be very hard to do. And if you look at the history of regulation around Bitcoin in other countries, every time countries try and regulate it, search history goes up, usage goes up, so it's very hard to censor.